Due to my coworker kind of coming down with sudden kidney stones, he was not able to be here. So I'm kind of a new addition to the roster. So unfortunately, I know Jason had an opportunity to talk with you. I have not, unfortunately, which I apologize for. I should have tracked you down last night when I had in a moment. But so I've not had a chance to talk to your next speaker yet, but I did flip through his portfolio really quick. And I'm really looking forward to get to know you because that's some really great looking work on there. So he's the co-founder of Fly Media Productions. Please welcome Reuben Johnson.
Thanks very much, Nick. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm looking forward to getting to know you too, by the way. So as you can tell, I am a bundle of nerves right now. I've been saying it like the last few days, and about back in May when I first had the opportunity to speak here, I was so enthusiastic. I was like, I'm gonna kill it. I know I got some great information I can share. As we get closer, imposter syndrome rears its ugly head. I've been eating out my insides with anxiety, and like the last 3 days, like absolutely like almost paralyzed. But I'm gonna get through this because I'm super excited. I think the information will be really cool. So that's like my being transparent moment. So the name of the talk here is Maintain Your Innovative Edge by Being Different. What this talk is not is gonna be a how-to to make $1 million really quick. I don't have the blueprint for that because that's not my lane. What the talk is going to be is more of an incentive to not only look for the innovative role, the edge in your own differences, but to hopefully bring a new perspective to how you may see the differences in other people and in other people's businesses. So let me jump to the next slide. And I'm going a little bit like old school, using PDF instead of PowerPoint, so bear with me with that, please. So what it is, this is more of an incentive, this talk, an incentive to not only look for the innovative edge in your own differences, but hopefully a new perspective, see the differences in other people. I just said that. We're gonna start by looking why being different is often considered too much of a risk by people when they're talking about business or their personal brand, as well as why some people may allow the risk of it to prevent them from considering non-conventional approaches to I am nervous as I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I have done this thing so many times and I'm just like blip, 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 stumbling over my words. What I'm gonna try to do is show you how in my business, I've tried to take this approach and execute it. Try to double down on being authentic. Sherry and I have been able to build a company that maintains an innovative edge by coming at things from a unique perspective. That's pretty much our perspective. We come at everything taking our experiences and filter it through that lens. So I'm gonna share some experiences of ours, of how we build products and the type of work we produce that helps us get visibility. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about what it means for creating an agency that's creative, that wants to be relevant, that wants to do work, build products and services that matter to people, that get them excited, that make them want to use your products. We put so much time into the work that we do, development, design, marketing, whatever. You don't really want your stuff to get shelved. You don't want it to get like dustbin because it didn't get used. You want it to get seen, and more than that, when people use it, you want them to be excited. You want them to be appreciative. So that's the kind of stuff that we focus on. And we do that by doubling down on the stuff that would normally make each of us afraid. What we do is we'll usually try to leverage what makes us most insecure as individuals. It's probably one of the things that's been fundamental and foundational to what we do and how we've been able to do what we do different. And then finally, because I haven't achieved the full blueprint myself yet, I'm gonna share some examples of people's successes who have done it, who've gone the full mile, and kind of pick out from them the things that I think go along and prove what I'm trying to say. So that being said, I'm gonna jump actually into information. So here we got the status quo, the risk. And the risk are the status quo, the gatekeepers, culture fit, alignment, and niching down. And for the purposes of this talk, when I talk about the status quo, I'm more talking about the set, expected way of doing things. So when you go about things, this is what's quote unquote required. This is how why you have to do it this way. You know, you have to stay within these parameters. For the sake of this talk, the gatekeepers would be people, systems, mechanisms that are set up in place to enforce the status quo so that you do things a specific type of way. And then culture fit, if you've got a business and you're not doing so great, you might be even more risk averse to try to do something different, so out of the box. If your business is already doing well, you may not want to, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And then finally, alignment is going to be talking about unconventional alignments with folks where you might think it's too risky to align with these people or specific brands. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about that, and then niching down, kind of like the idea, who are your customers? We can never have enough customers. People might ask you, who's your customer? And some people will be like, everybody. That doesn't work that way. Niching down is the exact opposite. Niching down means you have a very specific amount of customers and a specific idea of who your customer is. I'm gonna jump to that next one. So my business wouldn't be here today if we hadn't approached things in a very different way ourselves. It was only after we began to do things very differently, we kind of took a contrarian approach of things, that things started to change for us. And this was after years of stagnation. And after we started doing this, we started noticing growth. It was probably one of the single biggest catalysts for change for us. And it started with, for us, a change in mindset. Especially for me personally, it started with a change in mindset. We stopped worrying about whether or not we'd be able to please everyone, and we embraced the idea that we knew we wouldn't please everyone. We wouldn't please every customer. We knew we'd even piss some people off. Kind of like the old adage goes, if you don't have haters, you're not really doing anything. Kind of like that. So we knew we'd offend some people, but that wasn't for us to worry about. There's another saying that goes, if you don't understand the price, it's not for you. We applied the same thing to our business. If you don't understand our approach or our messaging, it's not for you. That's okay, neutral. It's not negative, it's not positive, it is what it is. We literally said, F the gatekeepers. And we began embracing an unconventional and non-conformity because it's who we are as people in our core. It's what we know and it's what felt right for us. But I think that's kind of like where it starts. That's the fundamental part of it. It's got to be who you are. It's got to be, it can't be something that's forced. Either you are or you aren't. If you aren't, there's nothing wrong with that. We all have something we can pull from, but you got to do it within a wheelhouse that's natural for you, that feels legit and authentic for how you are and who you are as a person. And I love that quote. We started being ourselves, and then people started to pay attention to us. We literally started at the bottom, and now I'm here. And thanks to Drake, I got a good line I can steal. Now I can tell you that I don't know how to land a deal, not yet, with the likes of Jay-Z, Steve Stout, HP, Beyonce, DC. If you're a surfer, WRV, Rusty, Billabong, I can't necessarily say this is how you start and you create a relationship with them to sign a contract. But what I can do is I can point to people who are doing that and kind of point to how they speak to this path. What I can tell you is how to come from relative obscurity based on my own past and then enter an industry that's well known and notoriously challenging, full of gates of its own. How you can take whatever positives you have individually, whatever skills you have, whatever advantages you have, pull from your background, and anything you have that's applicable and valuable to the type of work you do, leverage those things as your assets. That's how you can use that to make a space, carve out your own niche, make some coin, and work on dope projects. Make a name for yourself so that you can walk in the room, people will already know who you are. Mindset is almost everything. When we started our agency, it was in 2001. Sherry and I were living in subsidized housing, also known as the projects, also known as the PJs. We didn't know hardly anybody. I don't know, we maybe casually knew a few people who were in IT. We didn't have a computer. We had no money. We had no connections. But In that amount of time, we taught ourselves how to program, how to code, we taught ourselves business, marketing, technology, and then things like operations and figuring all that stuff out. Working through fear and working through risk wasn't easy for us, but it has been hella worth all the effort and has been hella worth the journey. We've been able to build a brand and build relationships beginning from that brick apartment all those years ago in a low-income working class city that had very little to offer the majority of its residents, especially its residents of color. When I talk about the struggling city, Woonsocket, where we used to live, was known for Walmart leaving town, then Lowe's, then Burlington Coat Factory, and most of the plazas closed. If you look it up on MSN, they just did a story on it recently, 20 or 28 cities that never made it out of the recession. We used to say Woonsocket never made it past September 11, 2001, because the city was basically in poverty ever since September 11. We learned a lot through that experience on how to kind of do things differently. And that's kind of like what we're pulling from is our background. Everybody has a background that they can pull from. Everyone has experiences that they've learned from that they can use as value for any project that they're working on, any problem they want to solve. It'll help you create unique solutions. It wasn't easy for us to kind of move our way into the industry. We made a hell of a lot of mistakes, but in the end, we did it unapologetically. And that's kind of what we've been working through. So that's pretty much what I'm here to talk about. Finding the gems in your own experience and leveraging that as the foundation. Kind of sticking a little bit. So, whoops. So, I'm totally lost. So basically, how you leverage your life experience is part of your advantage. I have an example I wanted to talk about with inventor and business owner Jessica O. Matthews. She created a company called Uncharted Play. Uncharted Play creates renewable energy. They create really innovative products. They have a little soccer ball that harnesses kinetic energy from when little kids play with it and kick it. It harnesses that, and then it creates renewable energy for places that are not connected to the grid. So back when she got started many years ago, she talked to one of her mentors, and she said to one of her mentors, I'm out here trying to get VC funding, but what I'm running into is folks expect me to look like and be like Mark Zuckerberg. And this is going back a little bit, but she said, and I feel like it's really hard because I'm a black Nigerian woman, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't know his experiences. So one of the things he said to her was really interesting. First, you have to stop trying to be basically Mark Zuckerberg. You're not Mark Zuckerberg. Your background, though, is why you created the socket ball. The socket ball is that little soccer ball. So he's like, what would Mark Zuckerberg have had in his background to pull from to create that soccer ball? He didn't have your background. He never would have invented that product. Because where you came from and your experiences is why you created the soccer ball. You gotta value your own experiences because that's how you create innovative stuff. So now, all these years later, when she talks to people, Jessica says, instead of trying to mold yourself over what you think other people expect you to be, double down on who you are. The folks who want what you have and who you are will then be able to find you. They'll come to you. So we're living in a time today, in 2018, where we can directly impact people. We can directly impact how things are sold, how things are designed. We can build in ways that improve or that speak to these experiences. We can even do things that just simply acknowledges people's existence, people's humanity, and people's dignity. We have a significant amount of power and influences because of the skills that we have. As our world becomes more interconnected, the skills we have mixed with our own experiences becomes a huge advantage to each of us individually. Holding on to the idea that there's a homogeneous world where there's only one or two binary ways of thinking, living, or doing is going to become a liability for anyone who wants to kind of go that path. I firmly believe that if we're willing to do things differently, if we can be willing to be daring and consider how difficult it can be to avoid the herd mentality, sometimes being different feels like it's almost revolutionary, but it can also be profitable. And that's kind of what I'm going to get into the next part, is that blueprint, talking about people who have actually made it profitable. So the blueprint part is going to be examples of real people, real brands that have made real difference. They've come together and they've changed people's hearts, people's minds, and they've made bank while they do it at the same time. The first brand I'm going to bring up is Adidas. Is that, yep, Adidas. So in 2008, Adidas, most of us, if not all of us, have probably already heard of Adidas. It's a multinational corporation founded and headquartered in Germany. They design and manufacture shoes, clothing, and athletic wear. They're the largest sportswear manufacturer in Europe and the second largest in the world, only to Nike, with their revenues listed at over $21 billion annually. And that was $21 billion back in 2016. It's been said that if you want to make inroads in a hyper-competitive market, you got 3 ways you can do that. You can use price, so you can make your price of your product or service lower than your competitors. You can use service, you can make your service top-notch, or you can use differentiation. Set yourself apart as being unique from the other alternative options. In 1986, before Adidas is the Adidas we know today, they were a small German shoe company. They weren't the big global behemoth they are today. Nike, however, was the behemoth we know of today. Adidas got approached by a man named Russell Simmons with an interesting opportunity. They got the opportunity to make inroads in a hyper-competitive market, but they had to do something different. They had to be willing to collaborate with a non-traditional partner, and that was the rap group Run DMC, who are now iconic. If you had the opportunity now, you'd probably be like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Rewind back to 1986, and that was a hell of a risk, especially considering that these guys didn't even know anything about what hip-hop was. What Russell Simmons did was give one of their executives a ticket to come over here to Run DMC's show at Madison Square Garden. At that show, Run DMC, I think it was Joe Simmons, took off his Adidas and held his hand in the air. And he said, "My Adidas." At that point, thousands of people in the audience took off their Adidas and held them in the air and said, "My Adidas." Because of that, Run DMC got the first $1 million shoe deal that ever happened for a non-athlete. Before that time, they were not endorsing entertainers, rappers, singers, or anything for athletic wear. As a result of that, Adidas is now a hip-hop and now pop culture staple. They're everywhere. You see them everywhere. They're making, buku bucks. What did I say? 21 billion annually plus. But that all started with them being willing to do a collaborative with an unconventional partner. At the time, collaborating with hip hop was a hell of a risk. It was not proven like it is today. We've got that roadmap, but back then that was risky as hell, especially for a young, new, small company that didn't have a lot to lose. Or did have a lot to lose? Yeah, probably did have a lot to lose. Let's throw that off. So I love this quote right here. When facing a giant, the best way to win is to play by your own rules. And I stole that quote, I'm stealing a lot of people's intellectual property, from Noah Johnson. I'm gonna jump to our next example. I love this quote too. Do it first or do it different. And I think that's the thing. A lot of times they're like first to market. You don't have to always be first to market. If for some reason you missed a jump, you can do something differently. Differentiation is huge, especially when we're in a saturated industry with so many options. Differentiation allows you to stand out. If everyone's wearing a red shirt, you could wear the blue shirt, red shirt, blue shirt. You know what I mean? So differentiation is huge. So Cardi B. Cardi B is an American rapper, a songwriter, television personality, an influencer, and a businesswoman. Cardi B is also great at differentiation. She undoubtedly comes from an unconventional background. Cardi B loves to have fun with profanity. She's very candid about adult topics, sexuality and sensuality, and doesn't apologize for it. She also doesn't act as though her past should be considered a mistake for her or something that she needs to hide. Yet reputable brands like Tom Ford consider her worth the risk and are lining up at the door to work with her. Why would they do this? Why would it be worth the risk to work with her? One of the common sentiments about Cardi B is that she doesn't even know how to be famous. She's so legit, so authentic, so genuine, so real that she's just herself. While it turns some folks off, and which is totally fine, other folks gravitate to her like a magnet. And so the brands who are aligned with the people who love her have a great opportunity there because they're right there by her side. So it's like she's helping to self-filter out the folks who aren't in alignment for that brand and bring all the people who are. So it's a brilliant opportunity to collaborate. But you gotta be willing to do those collaborations because being the first one is when it's all the risk. Once you wait until other people have proven it, that's when the folks who aren't necessarily the easy collaboration start to realize, oh wait, I can get paid for this? I can get buku dollars for this? Because that's what happened with the clothing brands back in the late 90s. Before they were doing all these collaborations with the entertainers were doing these collaborations sometimes for free just because they loved the brand. Once the first brand was smart enough to pay them, all the other brands, they lost the opportunity to be first because now everyone's like, wait a second, nah, you're gonna pay me, son. So, being able to spot those opportunities is really important. And the final one, she's someone I really look up to. She's someone I keep forgetting about the quotes. And I love this quote too. This is another great one. People may hate you for being different and not living by society's standards, but deep down, they wish they had the courage to do the same. It's not easy. It takes work and it takes believing in yourself and it takes being able to tolerate an aversion to risk. This is what I was talking about. So Cindy Gallup, a lot of you may recognize her. She's someone I'm really intrigued by the way she has managed her career and managed her business. She is an English advertising consultant. She's the former chief of the US branch of Bartle, Bogle, and Hegarty, and she's a founder of multiple startups. A startup including If We Ran the World and Make Love Not Porn. Cindy Gallup also chose differentiation in how she chose to do business and get VC funding. She came on my radar back in around 2009. She did a TED Talk. And her presentation was only about 4 minutes long. Her topic was about as adult as it gets for a conference on technology, education, and design. It was unexpected. When all was said and done, the impact of her presentation had moved the culture. In 2009, TED even said that her talk was one of the most talked about presentations of the year. She took an almost always taboo topic of sexuality and pornography, and then she stitched them together into an eloquent, powerful narrative that felt significantly larger than the 4 minutes it actually occupied. And I'm not gonna mess with any puns here, but so she encouraged us to challenge ourselves. I'm just gonna slide over that. Let's slide in my DMs. So what Cindy did was encourage us to challenge ourselves, to challenge preconceived notions that we may or may not have on the topics that she was talking about, to examine the roles that culture, capitalism, advertising, which she's a member of advertising, she's a believer in capitalism, and the strength and power of advertising to add to the culture in a positive way as well as a negative way. Commerce, entertainment, and business. She took a topic that's often seen as both overtly and conversely and simultaneously, conscientiously ignored, and forced us to acknowledge this topic in public amongst our peers at the conference. Without working to be tawdry, without being passive, dismissive, disingenuous, disrespectful, dishonest, she passionately implored more of all of us to think about what we do, to think about things like entertainment, to think about the impact our job and the products and the designs and the creative that we create has culturally, significantly across the board. I love her quote, "Reinvent the industry to be what you think it should be. Then you'll succeed on behalf of all of us." And I love that quote because I think it speaks to something that's bigger than us as individuals. Being different doesn't have to mean it's just about me getting mine. It's just about my company making it at the negative impact of anyone else's company. We can get success and then turn around and use it to benefit a lot of things in a positive sense. So jumping back to her presentation, it was largely based on her own life experiences. Also, it was based on her passion project. it could have sank her professionally. I mean, just think about it. Put yourself in Cindy's shoes to talk about that topic in a quasi-professional setting. It would be tough, to say the least, to expertly handle that topic without going too far one way or the other and still maintain your passion. She put herself on my radar because of that speech. One of my favorite mottos is, if there's one, then there's many. And I think that if I was a fan of her and it impacted me, then it must have been a lot of other people, because there's 8 billion of us on this planet. As far as I'm concerned, she wrote a blueprint of how to discuss that thing that you don't discuss in polite company. She's since been someone who I see everywhere. A solidified expert. She laid the groundwork. Cindy, for me, is an example of how difference can enable you to do really dope work and have a really big impact, but also be happy in the way you make your living and the type of stuff you do. I don't think that making money has to be the only barometer for success or satisfaction in the work we do. Happiness is an absolutely valid motivation for doing things differently. We spend so much of our time behind computer screens, doing the work, managing clients, creating strategy, burning our brains, that I think we should be doing stuff that also makes us happy. So in conclusion, I know this has kind of been a minute. Let me just jump over here. Oh, wait a second. I guess I'm over. I'm just playing. I knew it was there. That joke didn't land. No pity laughs for me. So I mean, that's really the crux of it. I kind of skipped the part when I got flustered in the beginning. I loved it, but I think it's way too long to go back and the moment's over. So I do have a final question though. Everybody here has a lived experience. We've all lived unique lives. We've all had interesting challenges we've overcome. We've all had fun experiences, challenging experiences. What is your lived experience? What does your industry lack that your lived experience is telling you is important, that needs to be represented, that could move the industry forward, that could create innovation, that could do challenging things, that could better humanity and the culture? How do you think you can use the advantage that you have from your own individual experiences to do things differently? And that's it. Thanks. Appreciate it. I gotta get a big thank you to my wife, Sherry, too. This wouldn't have happened without her support, so thank you. Anybody have any questions? I know I was kind of like all over the place, so. But any questions? I'd love that. Any questions, any thoughts, any examples that resonated for you or didn't resonate for you?
You sort of mentioned that you started out sort of where you started and then here you are here today.
Yeah.
When was that? How did you identify at the time that time where you're like, wait a second, this is working? And what sort of rubber hit the road for you at that time that sent that signal?
That's a good question. That's one of the parts I skipped. On accident, my thing got froze up a little bit. That's a good question. So it didn't happen overnight. We started noticing, so we kind of took a left turn. We initially started out trying to genuinely do things the way we knew we really wanted to. I think as a lot of people, when you got a young business and you're young yourself, you take people's advice, well-meaning as it is, and you apply it in the wrong way. So we kind of went left a little bit. And that was for a while. We tried to like fit into the mold, tried to do the khakis and all that kind of bit. And I'm not dogging that, because everybody's got to do what works for them. But it just didn't work for me personally. I noticed as soon as we started coming back and going the other way, we started getting positive reception. We started getting, I think what happened is we were starting to enjoy the work we were doing more. And the relationships with our clients was better. Because when you're not trying to feel like you've got to hide a part of yourself or you can't be authentically who you are, you're always kind of like clenched up inside. And when you deal with your clients, you're not feeling just chill and relaxed. And I think that kind of stifles how you do the work you do, especially if you're doing creative stuff. anybody who's doing creative stuff or strategy stuff, because it's just so, I mean, that's creative too. And I think that's when we noticed it. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it does.
If I'm leaving anything out, just let me know. I'll be glad to clarify. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the polls right in the way.
No, sorry. So, you know, you mentioned like when you started being genuine, essentially, you noticed the difference. I know that oftentimes when you start walking in that direction, you kind of have to put yourself out there. Is there any experiences you can mention where you put yourself out there and kind of how did that turn out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna come over here so I can see your face because I'm looking at the poll. Yeah, that's a good question. So a few times, and I think progressively, it gets easier. I think the first time you do it, it can be, for me personally, it can be so hard. It can be like a panic attack inside, and over the simplest stuff. I mean, coming here, this was putting myself out here, but the funny thing is, as much as I've been nervous, it's been a dream of mine. And I've spoken before, but never in this type of way. But I mean, I feel like this is amazing because I get to like see all of you, and I get to see you from a different perspective, and it feels like also it makes me more empathetic, if that makes any sense, for the people that I'm talking to. Because at the end of the day, I want to do a good job. I want to give you something that was worth you sitting here for half an hour and listening. I don't want it to have been like a waste of time for anyone to have sat here and decided, I'm going to sit in this track for this talk at 4:15. So that was one time we put ourselves out there, or I put myself out there. I think another time, there's a few other times. Here's a great example. Our Twitter chats, we used to do Twitter chats a few years ago. And we had some people like who, we used to invite people that I'm like, they're never in a million years gonna respond to an email from us. Next thing you know, we got 12 of those people. like boom, you know what I mean? Like at this point, I actually reached out to MC Light because I mean, you get one good thing to happen, you're like, I'm gonna keep pushing it until the universe says stop. And I'm gonna keep pushing it some more just to make sure. And I think the MC Light one was like a highlight for me. I recorded it, but I was worse than right now. So I will never play it anywhere. But she's one of those people where like, she's MC Light. I mean, damn, MC Light, she's like an icon. And she graciously gave me like an hour or something like that to do a phone interview. Just because we asked. And I look at that, I'm just like, seriously? Like, you talk to me, like, I see you on TV. Like, you perform in front of like hundreds of thousands of people. I think those are some of the things. I think putting yourself out there is hard at first. I would start where you're comfortable and then make yourself go a little bit further so you're uncomfortable. Because I think the growth comes when you're like right now, like I was feeling sick, but now I'm feeling good. But like now, if I do this again, I won't be this nervous ever again. And I won't be dumb enough to rewrite my talk 5 times the night before I'm supposed to give it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's the epitome of being like imposter syndrome and anal as hell. I mean, it's like, oh wait, you've got to talk. Wait, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Let me write it. Seriously? Come on, dude. Just like settle on something. Does that answer your question? Now that I'm feeling good, I'm just gonna ramble, so. But seriously, I mean, I think it starts with putting yourself out there. I think it starts with being a little bit uncomfortable in a way. Who is someone you've always wanted to work with? If you have anyone like that, reach out to them. Because we started doing that and we started hearing yes. And I mean, sometimes it still shocks me. And I think that's it right there. Just like find ways to do it. And as far as being different, I think it's just, different is different for everyone. It's relative. You know what I mean? My different is late 90s Jenko jeans and surfer t-shirts. Someone else's different could be cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. Someone else's different could be khakis and a button down. Everybody's different, but that's the thing that's like so dope because there's more businesses today than like there's been in a long ass time. There's a lot of opportunity and none of them are all the same. So we need to all have a differentiation point because what is a great opportunity for somebody I'm not going to do as good a job on that project because it's not the right one for me. I might be able to do a decent job, even a good job, but maybe you could knock that shit out the park in a way I could not even touch. And I think that's why it's so important, because if you can settle into being who you are, you're gonna do work that nobody else is gonna be able to touch. When you touch a project that is in your zone, you're gonna be able to kill it in a way that nobody else can mess with. And I think that's where it's so important, because being different kind of lets you do that. It lets you be in a place where you're picking better projects, you're doing them better, you're working with people who are like, that person's the ideal fit. And when I say person, I'm talking person, brand, company, whatever, you know what I mean? Because we're all our business is somewhat different, but. Anybody else? Sure.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you guys do?
Sure.
Just because like the stories are amazing and you're amazing, and I'd love to know more about what your business does.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. That's very humbling. Thank you. So we do custom design and development for websites, responsive design. I run the technology side of our business. Sherry runs the creative and the design side of the business. And then we also do some social media campaign strategy and then social media collateral creative. That we kind of take case by case basis just because it's so time intensive. And one of our favorite things is lifestyle brands, Luxe, Urban, SoCal inspired. That's the stuff just like, that's like just like warm.
What's your favorite thing that you've done so far?
That's a good question. I really we did something called the Spades Classic. There's an event happening in Vegas in December. It's a celebrity $1 million spades tournament with a bunch of celebs. And that one came out really dope. It's at Caesar's Palace. And I feel like what we did rivaled a lot of the stuff that Caesars had for their own hotels, to the point that some of the stuff we did looks better than theirs, and we're not even affiliated with them. They're just, one of the sponsors of the event. That one came out really good because it's like when I look at the rooms and stuff, I'm like, oh, I want to go there. I want to be there. Like, I love that feeling. I love doing stuff that if I get excited and I've looked at this damn site 100 times, then I know that someone who's part of the audience and the target demographic, they're going to look at it and they're going to feel even more jazzed than I'm feeling when I look at it. So that one was one of them. There was another one that was really cool too. Sherry is not as enthused about it, but I like it. So we did something, this one was really interesting. It was a really significant challenge, but it came out really good. It was an occupational health company. And the owner of the company, they have like 12 or 20 locations throughout the Georgia area. The owner of the company is a doctor. They're a pretty good sized organization. He loves the Ritz-Carlton. He goes there all the time. And he wanted this occupational health company to feel like the Ritz-Carlton. That's like a dichotomy. Like, that's like, damn. And we did it. So he came to us like, can you do X, Y, and Z? I'm like, that sounds like you want a lifestyle brand. I'm like, I'm all for it because that's our thing. But you just need to know that going into it. And he's like, okay. So we worked through the thing and we did it. And I think it's the same thing that I'm talking about here. He knew he wanted it, but when it got in the process, the risk scared him to his core. All of his competitors, they were all what you would expect from occupational health. He's the #2 company in the nation. So he had a lot of risk he was putting on the line with this. So we had to walk him through it. Well, why'd you reach out to us? Why did you want to make this feel like the Ritz-Carlton? Why did you come to us? Because this was your idea. This wasn't my idea. I wouldn't traditionally hire, look for a client that does occupational health and safety and all that kind of good stuff. And we walked them through it, and the project came out really dope. It's still sitting on a server. It's not in production yet, but it came out amazingly well, and they looked at it, and their team was just blown away. They're like, this looks like the comps, like this looks just like what you showed us, but on a flat image. And we're like, yeah, that's what we told you we would do. Like, we delivered, So that one gets me super excited, taking something that was one thing and making it feel like something completely unexpected. I love that. Anyone else? And I like that question, by the way. I guess that's it. Thank you very much. Really, this was like a huge pleasure for me. This was like, oh my God, like you have no idea how much this is a big deal to me. So I just want to thank everybody who gave me their half an hour. So big ups to all of you.